Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee and Compete, the show about the news, gossip, and tactics of competitive business strategy, brought to you as always by Klue. I'm Adam McQueen, and today I'm joined by a very close friend of Klue. It's none other than Tamara Grominsky. Tamara!
Hello! Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to have you on here. We're gonna go through some examples of companies listening to their buyer, being close to their customer, being close to their buyer, and we're each gonna share some examples of companies that have either course corrected or done a very good job of listening to their buyer and being in tune with them, because we know that is something that's super important for a lot of the product marketing audience listening today. Before we get into our examples, a little bit of housekeeping. Folks, Klue Quarterly happened, I believe, as of recording, it will have happened yesterday. So Klue Quarterly, we are sharing what's coming with Klue's product, new feature releases, what's also going to be coming for 2025, and a couple of the walkthroughs of some fun new features that we have dropped. So if you're listening to this, you're curious about some of the new things coming out with Klue, that happened yesterday, but the session will be on demand in our Compete community. So there'll be a link somewhere. I don't know where I'm pointing, but you can access that and check out all of the new functionality. Also, if you're interested in learning more about getting ahead of your competition, Tamara, who is with us right now, is running her day camp. Tamara, do you want to give a bit of details for the audience about what to expect?
Sure. So day camp is happening March 11th, and it is going to be live virtually. So one of my favorite things about this event is it's not pre-recorded. And what we're going to have is we're going to have 4 speakers who are all interconnected. And throughout the day, we're going to teach you basically how to outsmart the competition. We're putting a little Survivor spin on this. I feel like I'm aging myself with my Survivor fandom, but you are going to learn how to outmaneuver your competitors, arm your allies, win more deals, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. So it's free to join. You can register at events.pmmcamp.com/daycamp, and it's going to be a great time.
Nice. And we'll have links for that too for folks that can register. Some incredible speakers. And Survivor does not date you. Bringing this up, I have now had so many people that come out the shadows being like, I'm a Survivor fan. I'm like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. So just that theme alone has allowed me to talk to about 5 different people about Survivor now. So thank you, Tamara.
Amazing. I love it. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, we'll do a spin-off. We'll do a spin-off podcast breaking down Survivor episodes, but that's for a later date, new audience. Okay, so we each have an example here. I'm gonna kick it to you first. Yeah, take it away. What's your example and how are they staying close to the buyer?
All right. Oh, me first. There's so much pressure. It's like a ready for launch.
I know, on
all
Ready
over
for
again.
Launch, you guys are always fighting to get first dibs, or there's some randomizer that Grayson's thrown out there. So, well, we're politer here. We have etiquette on the Coffee and Compete podcast.
Amazing. Okay. So I'm going to use the example of McDonald's. So certainly not a B2B example, but I'm feeling very bullish these days about learning from B2C. And so we're going to use McDonald's to talk about McDonald's and how they prioritize customer feedback. We're going to go all the way back to the early 2000s. So we are dating ourselves here. Oh, I got to stop doing that. But McDonald's, we know when you think of McDonald's, you think of hamburgers, you think of French fries. I'm sure you certainly do not think of anything healthy. And in the early 2000s, this was even more so the case than it is today. But it's interesting when you dig into it, McDonald's actually is one of the companies that really prioritizes customer feedback on every receipt that you get. And they've had this for decades now. You can actually go on and take a customer survey. There is a little bit of a reward of if you take it, they'll give you, 1 free hamburger or buy one, get one, whatever it might be. And so it's great because they've been collecting this feedback for a decade. So it's not just, they decided to do one survey, they listened to it, and then they implemented it. What they're doing is they're identifying trends. And because there's so many McDonald's and so many McDonald's customers around the world, they're able to identify patterns. And so what we saw in the early 2000s was a rise in feedback from customers and people who are buying from McDonald's around this idea of I want something healthier. And now this was also kind of corresponding to trends in the market where you remember when all those documentaries were coming out, the guy who only ate McDonald's for a year and how McDonald's is poisoning us. So there's a market trend happening And whether the customers were responding to the trend or just genuinely wanting to have some healthier options, this is the feedback McDonald's is getting. And so what they did is they actually did a couple interesting things. And I want to talk about how they responded to what customers were asking for. And then I want to talk a little bit about, do customers even know what they want? So I'll start with the first one, which this is like the perfect customer research philosophy, right? So the first thing that they do, they kind of did two approaches. The first approach is they started to sprinkle healthier items all over their menu. So they made a smaller fry size. They added oatmeal. Do you remember those like salads that came in a shaker cup?
Oh, yeah. I remember those.
They got rid of McDonald's pizza, which was RIP. Like, that was my favorite McDonald's order. But, one of the biggest things I think they did in terms of actually listening to customer feedback is they made the Happy Meal much healthier. And I think this made total sense because, people want kids to eat healthier. Parents want their kids to eat healthier. And so they did a few things. First, instead of just giving you a fry with the Happy Meal, they would choose between apple slices. In some regions, you could choose an orange instead of apple or the fries. And they saw a massive uplift in this. And then the second thing, which I didn't realize until I started digging into the research, was they actually got rid of the soda option. So I guess you used to be able to buy soda with the Happy Meal, which is crazy because we shouldn't be feeding kids more soda. And now you can get juice or water. So they got rid of the soda option. They added the fruit. And they saw a ton of increase in sales for the Happy Meal. And what they also saw was not only did they make these healthier options, but they were really listening to kind of the market vibes around these healthier options. And so they changed their advertising too. So instead of advertising the Happy Meals with the French fries, they would put the apple slices in the ads, which I thought was super interesting. So they're not just saying, okay, here, you can have the option. They were promoting the option too, which I think is an indication of how important they realized it would be. Then the second thing they did in terms of both adding the healthier things to the menu was that they just kind of opened up transparency around the healthiness or not healthiness of their food. And so they started adding calorie counts to everything. And I know in some countries this is legally mandated now, but they really were ahead of the trend on that. And so this allowed people to say, well, maybe I'm not going to order the salad shaker cup from McDonald's, but maybe I'll choose the chicken nuggets because it's a healthier option than the Big Mac. And so it at least gave people the option to make the right health decision for them. So all of that was great. If we're just looking on paper, customers are asking for healthy options at McDonald's. McDonald's delivered. So did this work out? Yes and no. The Happy Meal, I think, was the biggest slam dunk. This has kind of continued into today. And a lot of other companies like Chipotle have really taken on the kids meal this way. Got Chipotle, you also get the little clementine orange, and you rarely will get offered a soda. And so I think they were really paving the way to make the kids' food healthier. Now, let's say the more adult menu items didn't land quite so well. So I'm pretty sure the salads have been removed from most places. I haven't seen it at a McDonald's in years. They had a little vegan burger they tested for a bit. That didn't land well. And so I think this is where I wanted to bring this concept of, do consumers even know what they want? And so I've done a lot of research myself as a product marketer. And oftentimes we want to dig into, okay, what are they asking for from a feature perspective? So they might be asking for a healthy menu item. What do they really mean? Well, the job to be done here is I want to be able to choose the right meal for me. And so I think McDonald's kind of over-indexed on trying to deliver exactly what the consumer asks for. I want to order salad at McDonald's. No one wants to order salad at McDonald's. What they want to be able to do is they want to be able to choose the healthiest item at McDonald's, or they want to feel better about choosing a healthy item, or maybe, just feeling indulgent and not choosing it. And so I think they kind of over-indexed, they've recalibrated, and now we really have the rise of healthy fast food. So Sweet Green, Cava. I know here in Vancouver, Adam, we probably go to Field and Social.
Oh, yeah.
And the reality is if I want a salad, I'm going to Sweet Green. I'm not going to McDonald's. But when I'm at McDonald's, I appreciate having the nutritional information so I feel less bad about eating my nugget.
This is a really interesting example. I love you brought this, do consumers know what they want? And I kind of have another question along a similar vein to you there is so if they're we're talking about being tapped into the market and the buyer. So if they're seeing that there's a shift towards health consciousness, I think this is like a really important question for companies. I want your take here. Maybe there's other examples you've seen of listening to the buyer and the market, but also not losing what your core value prop is. Like you said there, people don't associate McDonald's with a fresh salad. They're like, oh, they have the best salty fries in the game. I want to get McDonald's. Like, so I guess my question is like, how do you see other companies balancing what they're hearing from market trends and what they're hearing from their buyers, but not losing who they are and what their core value prop truly is?
It's hard to come up with like an example on the spot, but I think that is the like $1 million question. And I think customer research is like one input. Obviously, as a product marketer, like I need customer research, I need market research, but you can't lose yourself. Like even all of the companies I worked for in B2B, it's like it has to be read within the lens of your company's strategy, right? And your company mission. And so I think when you're a company who has a really clear and solid mission and vision, and you understand like the decision-making framework that you can make those decisions through, it's easier to kind of make sense of some of this research. We do see companies maybe losing themselves along the way.
And it's interesting you mentioned too, if you lose yourself along the way, like, I mean, we talk a lot about competition on this podcast. You mentioned there, if they continue to just over-orient themselves towards this healthy brand, they're playing in a whole new world where they, like you said, like your field and social, like your healthier fast food items that are made for that, were built, their identity, their purpose is built with being healthier. You're just playing into another company's game at that point. Like you've lost where you are, you've lost where you win, and you're just kind of, you've kind of like cut your nose to spite your face in a really poor situation.
Yes, and an example has come to me. I knew it would. This is a Canadian example, but I feel like it will also apply in America and other countries, which is airlines. So in Canada, we have a premium airline. It's called Air Canada. And yes, we pay a little bit more, but it's like you always get free snacks. The seats are a little bit more comfortable. You get to bring on more luggage onto the airline, right? Then we have Flair Airlines, which is like the budget. It's like the Ryanair of Europe, right? And you know what you're getting there though, right? It's like, yeah, you're going to pay way less, but like you're going to be uncomfortable. You can't bring any luggage with you, and you're going to have to like pay for water. And I feel like, recently Air Canada announced a new fare, a basic fare, where yes, it's a little bit more affordable, but you don't even get to bring a carry-on. And I just felt like this to me felt so in opposite to their mission as a premium airline that I was like, really? Just to like save a couple dollars, you're not going to let people bring a carry-on? Like we know there's enough room for all of our luggage. We've all been on a plane and everyone's only allowed to bring one luggage. And so for me, that felt damaging to their brand. I was like, you're supposed to be a premium brand and now you're nickel and diming people. And they're just trying to play the Flair game, right? But it makes sense for Flair because that's what their whole reputation and brand is built on, and it's not damaging to them. It's damaging, I think, to what Air Canada is doing.
I think both of those examples are interesting too. I think when they're like Air Canada is the premium, it's the market leader in this case. Same with McDonald's is oftentimes market leader when they're, especially when these aren't necessarily like private equity moments, but like when you're looking for more additional revenue streams, you start to broaden yourself and start to take on things that dilute what your core purpose was or is. And that's always interesting when you're adding in, for maybe B2B examples, like are you adding in product lines that are actually additive to your core offering, or are you kind of going a little too far away? Both companies you can see is like healthier option, there's a lot more opportunity to the health conscious buyer. Budget flight options, we can kind of capture that market that Flair Air are kind of circling on, but at some point you can't be everything to everyone. So I want to share with you my example. We're also going a commercial example here too. And this is great as well. I know that this will be airing maybe a week or two later than your social post that just blew up about Netflix. So I'm going to give Netflix a positive story of some origin of Netflix listening to their buyer. And then you're going to come in and undercut me and tell me about why they suck and they've stopped listening to their customers now 15 years later. So
all right, sounds good.
This is a story about Netflix and Quickster. Quicksters, I had never heard of Quickster before this. So Netflix started as a DVD rental by mail service, the disruption to Blockbuster. We all know this story, right? They launched streaming in 2007. Streaming is the future. Users could have unlimited DVDs, and then they could also stream under the same account. So they were like directly going into the DVD rental space and then introducing this new approach, this new method of consuming content, streaming. So they saw DVD as a fading market. Streaming was the future, and licensing costs were rising here. So the idea is when they saw this, as they were doing two things at once, was what if these businesses just grow independently? So they had a joint account, $10, you could do both. They split them into two separate accounts, each for $8, one for your DVD rental still, and one for these, maybe the early adopters that are starting to get into streaming. So they're looking at it, rather than one for $10, two for $8 each, you're gonna make more money, and you're also kind of like segmenting these things out. But they announced this in 2011. Quickster was the new brand for DVD rentals. They made this sub-brand for this piece, and Netflix remained for streaming. And now customers would also need two accounts for both. So you're really just kind of overcomplicating the process. And a lot of the decision making they made here when Reed Hastings, the CEO, came out with this, there was no customer consultation, customer feedback. It kind of was just like a sudden mic drop moment, like, hey, this is happening, everyone, boom. And the lack of foresight into what was gonna happen here is so evident in the results. So lots of people saw it as like confusing, like splitting all this stuff up, managing two extra accounts, extra work, price hike alienates people as well. And the result was that Netflix lost 800,000 subscribers within 1 quarter. And their stock dropped 80% from its peak, and it was a very visible dip on Netflix like brand. And the public sentiment completely shifted from this like lovable disruptor kind of ushering in this new era of streaming to just frustration, confusion. Are they gouging us some money? What even is going on? It was just confusion, to be honest. And so Quickster became a bit of a meme. It was mocked. And I love this note. So to put this a little bit of, we're breaking the fourth wall here. Producer Grayson, the best in the business, gives a little bit of extra research. This note here, Netflix failed to secure the Twitter handle for Quickster, which was owned by a teenager that used to tweet about weed. So there's a fun fact. Thank you for that research, Grayson. I love that. And so there was just a lot of confusion, and Quickster, now let's flip it to a bit of positivity, listening to your buyer, because not everything, you should be launching things with your buyer in mind and having, as you mentioned in our first example, buyer sentiment, buyer feedback as an input. They did not, but they responded. They responded quickly. The Quickster plan was scrapped within 3 months, and they went back to unifying their service. So it was a boo-boo, but they listened to their buyers very actively, and then they started to just double down on the streaming content, original programming, their original mission of seeing DVD as a relic of the past and a new era of consuming content. And so they kind of unified everything, and then that was the moment where instead of trying to be everything, they went, streaming is our purpose, streaming is our mission, this is our business model, and we know what happened from there when it comes to Netflix and the streaming world. So this is a mixture example here.
I love it. I remember like the name Quickster. I did not remember that it was broken in two and you had to have like 2 subscriptions, 2 prices. That just seems so poorly thought out. Unless to give them benefit of the doubt, unless they had to like comprehensive research and they really discovered this is 2 completely different customers. They don't want both subscriptions and we're going to be able to grow both. But it doesn't sound like that was the plan or the strategy here.
No, and it's again, maybe we're putting a little bit of like hypothetical hats on here. Is like, given in this point in time, this is so long ago that streaming was a bit of a new age thing. Like everyone is still accustomed to the current way of consuming movies and going to the DVD rental store. Like all of this was like the way that people were still consuming their like entertainment. And so maybe they were trying to kind of usher in a new era, but also still like tap into the existing revenue before it dried up, rather than, to your earlier point, with a company having a clear mission and purpose, just going with that and putting all of your eggs in that basket. It sounds like they were trying to kind of like tap into the existing revenue while this bet for this kind of new wave of consumption was growing in demand, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the things I'm taking from both of these examples is this idea of like, you can't be everything to everyone. Because even with the McDonald's example, I remember when the salads came out, I remember going with my mom to McDonald's and she was like, that's amazing. Like, now I can still get McDonald's. She like got a salad with a small fry, you know? But then I would go with my daddy, he'd be like, this is outrageous. Why are we getting salad here? And so I think how you deliver, you know, the message around how you've incorporated customer feedback is important as well. And I think that might even take us to today's example of my Netflix post.
Let's get into today's example, because it sounds to me that Netflix has made, what are we, almost 15 years on from this example we just shared? They might not have learned all of the lessons as it relates to listening to your buyer. So what happened, Tamara? Because you just had a post that blew up.
Okay, so, I mean, we know we're in the, I don't know, we're still calling it the streaming wars. I feel like Netflix is like definitely the market leader. They're feeling more bullish than ever, and we're seeing that in price hikes. That's not surprising. I think they've already increased the price at least once this year. And to be honest, like as a product marketer, I understand the position of like pricing power that they have. So I'm not even mad about it. Like, do I want to be charged more for my Netflix account? Absolutely not. Do I understand what they're doing? Sure. And like, it doesn't really matter to me if I pay 50 cents more or not. But what happened this week is I received an email basically notifying me that there would be a price update. And the communication in the email was so poor. It just didn't even sound, first of all, it didn't sound like a human wrote it. And then second of all, they certainly did not get any sort of customer feedback on how someone would respond. So they start off by saying like, thank you for being a valued customer since 2019. And then they go, we're changing your price. And I want to point out that they never mentioned that it's a price increase. So they're like, your price is now changing to $18.99 a month. Click here if you choose to accept this new price. And when I first read it, I was like, oh, are they offering me like a retention deal? Do you know what I mean? Just like the way they mention I'm a valued customer. Oh, here, if you want to accept this, usually that's the kind of language you would offer if you're giving someone an offer. But I was like, that's weird. That doesn't track. And so then I like took a step back and I was like, oh no, this is a price increase. They're being very sneaky about it. They didn't mention it was a price increase. They didn't say what my current price is, what my new price would be, and what the net new charge would be. And they also didn't explain why it was being increased. So they mentioned that they've known me since 2019. They could have included something really cool, like how many hours of Netflix I've watched. I mean, that one might be embarrassing. Or like, oh, we know you just finished watching this show. Something to like reinforce the value I'm getting for it. But it's like no value, no personalization, and very, very tricky, misleading language. And it's just very interesting to see like, it's 2025. We have so much data at our disposal. We know how important customer research is, and yet we're still sending emails like this.
It was, when I saw that this morning, I think when a post like that blows up too, it means that you weren't alone in thinking that and feeling honestly like icky with how they responded there. And I think there's like two pieces with the buyers. One, not listening to like feedback, and then two, just not being respectful of your buyer. Such an arbitrary, abrupt, and then also vague message. I think clear is kind, especially around these kind of pieces, that it when I read your post, it felt like that they were trying to sneak this under the rug without anyone really like raising their eyebrows.
Totally. It was like they offered me the illusion of choice, but I didn't actually have a choice. And so then my boyfriend, when he logged into the Netflix, it literally said accept or delete account. So it's like, wow, that's aggressive. Just a completely bizarre experience. And I think in all of these examples, for me, what stands out is integrity. Like any business, A business is here to run a business. They're here to make a profit. They're not going to be able to answer every single customer email that comes in. They're not going to be able to respond to every piece of customer feedback. But how you respond, I think with grace and integrity goes a long way. And I think as the end customer, when a company delivers me bad news, like I've given feature requests to companies before, and they'll get back to me and they'll say, thank you for your request. Unfortunately, like this doesn't align with our product roadmap, blah, blah, blah. Like I respect that because they've led with integrity versus, other companies who like drag you along or send messages like the Netflix message. Like integrity never goes out of style.
Absolutely. And just the acknowledgement of listening to your buyer. Doesn't mean you have to act on everything they do. Don't need to just start making salads left, right, and center, but listen to them and acknowledge that you listen to them. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to keep tabs on this example too, because although Netflix is a market leader, they were the disruptor in this space. There is a lot of competition in streaming wars now. And the increase in prices, it was originally such a cheaper option than cable. Now, when I start to look at my bill and all of the different services and streaming, like it's tallying up to such a degree that there will likely be a point when I actually look at my budgeting, I'm like, which of these should I cut? And you know who might get cut? The company that just keeps sneakily raising prices out of nowhere. So I'm very interested to see if some of these other streaming services kind of play into Netflix's disregard for their customer right now, and it could be an opportunity to capitalize.
Absolutely. I would agree with you on that one.
Well, this was awesome, Tamara. I'm stoked we got to go through examples. For those of you that don't know as well, Tamara is 1/3 of the Ready for Launch podcast, where they break down examples just like this on the best product launches, sometimes the worst product launches. It's all up breaking down product launches. It's an awesome podcast, so go check that out as well. And Day Camp, be there or be square.
We'll see you there, Survivor style.
Survivor style. Maybe Jeff Probst will be cameoing too. Who knows? Unconfirmed. We'll see if we got budget. But thank you so much, Tamara, and we'll catch everyone next week.